Ed Orgeron stopped by Off the Bench with Jordy Culotta and T-Bob Aber. You can always hear that full interview online at 1045ESPN.com. Hit on demand, Off the Bench. Boom, you'll see the Coach O interview. Coach O did talk about Marcel Brooks. He did talk about Eric Monroe. We touched on that a bit in hour one. Nothing eye-opening about either of those, but wish them both the best. What was really interesting was as they started to sort of really dig deep into line play on both the offensive and defensive lines. In particular, while they can't talk specifically about a recruit, Garrett Dellinger out of Michigan has committed to LSU for the 2021 class. And it signals a bit of what we've continued to see, which is a sea change in LSU going outside of Louisiana to get elite prospects and even into the Midwest, where LSU beat out Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State for Dellinger. And Ed Orgeron talked about James Cregg, his offensive line coach, getting on a plane and going up into the heart of Big Ten country to pull out an elite recruit.
Unbelievable. All the traveling, leaving on Sunday night while the recruits wanted to leave on a Monday morning, being stuck overnight in the snow. And just, hey, coach, I'm in the airport. I won't make it. I'm in the snow here. I'm snowed in. Whatever it took for him to get to where he needed to go. A tremendous job with the parents. James is always on the phone with all the parents. He covers all bases in recruiting. He's worked about as hard as a recruiter I've seen. And this year is a great year for offensive line out there. So we feel very good about the guys that we are recruiting. And I feel very good about James Cregg. As you guys know, I think he's one of the best offensive line coaches in college football.
James Cregg is one of those guys on staff that has been spectacular both as an on-field technician, as evidenced by what the offensive line did this past year for LSU, going from maligned in 2018 to literally the best offensive line in college football in 2019. And he's shown that he is equally as proficient on the recruiting trail. As he, again, went up a couple of years ago, got Anthony Bradford out of Michigan, and now has gone and gotten Garrett Dellinger out of Michigan. And LSU keeps plucking elite talent on the offensive line away. But Orgeron the guys also asked Orgeron why he is targeting the Midwest for offensive linemen.
That's what most of the linemen come up. Offensive linemen came out. We looked at the guys in the draft, the guys that were having success. Again, Jack Marucci did that report for me. He came, he said, Coach, look at it. Here's where the linemen are coming from, is the Midwest. And, we've had success. T-Bob, you play with a lot of guys from the Midwest. And not to say that Louisiana doesn't have offensive linemen, but there's not as many offensive linemen in Louisiana for us to field the whole squad. So we have to go other places. And the Midwest is the place to go.
What stood out to me there is something we talk about a lot here with this staff, which is attention to detail. Like, remember a couple of weeks ago when Ed Orgeron in that interview, like during the shutdown, they were going week by week as if it were game week, the staff was, and they were preparing as if it were game week for that opponent. Like, as if they were playing Auburn on that Saturday, and they were game planning like they were playing them. So that way, when November rolls around and they're actually playing Auburn, they will have the scouting report from May or June that they can bring back and then modify based on what they've seen in the season. The attention to detail that they have is the thing that continues to stand out above all else, above coaching decisions, above allocation, above talent, recruiting, everything. It's just the fact that no stone is left unturned, and that attention to detail is why LSU, in my opinion, has been able to maximize their staff, their talent, all that stuff. This is another example of that. All right, we're going to recruit. Well, let's not just rely on recruiting rankings. Jack Marucci is going to file a full report on where the best offensive line talent is coming out of in signing classes and then getting to the NFL. And he's basically spotlighted these hot spots in the Midwest and said, that's where you got to go. This is where the guys that are getting to the next level, this is where they're coming from. So now LSU's going to recruit there. And lo and behold, you go get Garrett Dellinger out of Michigan. And listen, when you look at LSU's offensive linemen, they got 12 scholarship offensive linemen for 2020. 3 from Louisiana, 3 from Texas, 2 from Florida, 1 from Mississippi, 1 from Michigan, 1 from Ohio, and then Liam Shanahan, the grad transfer from Massachusetts. Of your 12, Only a quarter of them are from Louisiana. Only 3 of your scholarship offensive linemen are from Louisiana. 9 are from outside of the state. 75% of your scholarship offensive linemen are from outside of Louisiana. Ed's not feeding you a line of bull. He's telling you straight up, like, Louisiana produces some good linemen, but not enough for us to field an entire unit of offensive linemen with kids from Louisiana. We got to go elsewhere. 3 from Texas, 2 from Florida, 1 from Mississippi, 1 from Michigan, 1 from Ohio, 1 from Massachusetts, a grad transfer. Wherever you got to go to get them, that's where LSU is going to get them. But it's not just on the offensive line as well. On the defensive line, you're continuing to see the excitement about this unit. And Ed Orgeron talked about 9, please, Musso, if you would. The importance in this defense that Bo Pelini is implementing in having an elite defensive line.
The defensive line is what makes it go in the 4-3. I think we're loaded on the defensive line with Tyler Sheldon coming back, Glenn Logan, and having Justin Thomas coming back at right end. A guy, 2 young guys, not 2, 4. These guys, watching these young guys. B.J. Ujulari, Philip Webb, who looks fantastic running out there. Jacoby and Guillory. When you walk up behind Jacoby and Guillory, T-Bob, you like this. When you walk right behind Jacoby and Guillory, he looks like an ice box, okay? We still call that an ice box in Louisiana. Back is as wide as an ice box, okay? And then Jacqueline Roy, who I think will be an All-American here.
Orgeron has said Jaquelin Roy and B.J. Ujulari are both going to be All-Americans. Like, he continues to hype this group. You can tell his excitement for this group. And Mike Detillier loves to tell the stat of the number of first-round draft picks that Ed Orgeron has recruited and developed during his college career on the defensive line. He knows them when he sees them, and they have a unit of, as he said, it looks like they got 25 guys across the defensive line. They are deep, they are talented, and they are going to be a hellacious unit for a lot of people to deal with because of the talent they have and the defense they're playing, and that's in part because of Bo Pelini, and that's what Ed Orgeron's talked about. He talked about it again today, about having Bo Pelini come in and run this defense.
You know, first of all, Dave Miranda did a tremendous job for us, but it was time for us to switch back to the 4-3. We feel that it used our speed and our talent. I feel like I got the best 4-3 coach in all of football, and Bo Pelini. He's very smart. He's brought energy. Our guys love him, so we're excited about it.
Now, I think, first of all, that illustrates another reason why Dave Aranda was shopping this offseason. The Baylor gig came, and it's great that it did. But if you remember, there was a report that Dave was taking the UNLV job. Do you remember that? I mean, the report came out, and a lot of the word was that he had verbally accepted that job before retracting. And then of course, the Baylor job came open when Matt Rule left for Carolina. Sometimes things work out for you. And it's great that it did for Dave Aranda in that respect. But the reality is Ed Orgeron was ready to move to a 4-3. That's the defense he wants to run, with fast, physical defensive linemen that get up the field and make plays. We talked about Marcel Brooks and how he was kind of a man without a position, right? At 195 pounds, even if he's up to 210, you're still not a Mike backer at 210. You got to put on another 20, 30 pounds, and even still, it's not what he's used to doing, coming off the edge and affecting the passer. The other position players that are affected really are the nose tackles. Because if you're 360, 370 pounds and you're a guy that's head up on the center and you're eating up double and triple teams to free up linebackers to make plays, now all of a sudden they're going to shade you into the gap and say, hey, go make plays yourself. It's a very different responsibility. Ika and Shelvin are now going to be asked to do something different than they were in the previous defense, and today Ed talked about that.
They can play both. Now, we'll use them a lot in the 2 technique. They either play on the guard or the center, but very rare would they be head up. Now, they'll be head up sometimes like a 0 technique in the 3-4, but they're going to be more of a one gap, get up the field. They'll be the nose tackle in our 4-3.
I actually think, I'm curious about Ika, but I do think Tyler Shelvin, who, according to College Football, Pro Football Focus, was the best run stopper in the SEC a year ago. I do think Tyler Shelvin, even though his Pro Football Focus grade, his grading was good, his statistics didn't pop. He's talking about 30 tackles on the year. Now, for a nose in a 3-4, that's impressive. But you're going to see those numbers increase this year because he's athletic and he's going to be in a position to make more plays. I think Shelvin is that guy that's going to see his statistics pop and is going to be a first-round draft pick. Now, the guys also asked Ed about the guys that are going to be the tackles in the 4-3, which are Neil Farrell and Glenn Logan, two guys who both played a lot of really good football for LSU a year ago, and how they look in this defense.
They're going to be the three technique. So, as you know, the three technique, that's the engine. That's what makes this 4-3 go. So, Glenn Logan, Neil Farrell, Jacqueline Roy, those three guys are going to be the three technique. So, let it fly,
Roy, Farrell, Logan, you're looking at a Ika, Shelvin. You are looking at a fast, deep, athletic defensive line. And I know we've talked about it a lot this offseason, and most of us are just ready to see how it's going to look on the field. And that's one of the disappointing things about not getting spring football. But the thing that was the hallmark of LSU's defenses, and yes, the DBU moniker, but LSU had a string of a decade where they had a defensive lineman taken in the NFL draft every year for a decade. Nobody else matched that. They were producing defensive linemen in the NFL at a rate unlike anybody else in the country from the time Nick Saban was in Baton Rouge until around the 2012, 2013 range. And then it was like they turned the spigot off. And it feels like this year, for the first time, it's going to look like it did when you had Dorsey, and even beyond it, when you go Lavallee and guys like Kyle Williams and Drake Nevis and Claude Roden, and LSU was just churning out All-Americans on the defensive line and guys that were taken in the NFL draft. It feels like you're on the brink of doing that again. And that's really, really exciting because, as we've talked about, the spot where LSU had become deficient, it wasn't because quarterback play wasn't elite. It wasn't because they didn't have talent on the outside or skill guys at receivers or running backs. We know that LSU had that. Where they were deficient was you go to Tuscaloosa with Leonard Fournette and he runs 16 times for 30 yards because you can't move their defensive line. Well, LSU's is starting to look like that. And that's a really exciting thing. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.